What's up, guys? I've been really busy and will be really busy for quite a while coming up. I will try to squeeze in videos where I can. And I'm really stoked to finally have found this book after looking for it for 2 years, not really knowing what the name of it was, just knowing the author. But it's been cited by many of the papers that I've read over the last few years. But I'm just too damn tired to sit down and make the videos, honestly. So I'll try not to drone on too much. The reason I've been looking for this book is because it is a full collection of all of the catastrophes that have ever happened. And in a later video, I'll get into all of this and make it all make some sense. But I wanted to touch on the strange part of this first. This book was written in 1749, and it's cited for use by other authors I've read in the 18th and 19th century, so I know it goes back that far. It's got a footnote here from the Harvard Library in 1868, so I know this is an old book. But now we're going to kind of get into the elephant in the room of the alternative research community, which I don't even want to get into. It's horribly depressing to see what kind of videos are being put out considering history these days. But anyway, one thing that I myself and everybody has kind of not even touched or things like this. And it's mainly because I don't agree with the ancient aliens theory. But you got to admit that there's all of these historical counts of weird things happening. So in the sky from east to west, we're seeing armies fighting. That's what Pliny said. Burning shield running sparkling fire from west to east at sun setting, and was burnt the famous Alexandrian library. Now here's the deal: is mainstream and everybody else writes these off as fanciful, but these are the people that brought us calculus and geometry and architecture, philosophy. They laid the groundwork for what mankind has become. And I'm sure they're rolling over in their graves seeing us now. But these guys were smart people, okay? They basically invented the world that we have or learned it from someone else. And they say there were armies fighting in the sky and a burning shield with sparkling fire. Now, you got to admit that this sounds like some kind of flying craft. I'm not going to jump the gun and call it a spacecraft, but something flying. And keep in mind that even this account was written in 1749, 150 years before our modern aviation. Now, there's something else real interesting about this book that I want to touch on briefly is notice that dating system that they're using. They've got Pliny in 3863. And you'll see on the right here, they just abbreviated AM. I've just been calling it after man. This lines up with the dating from the Hebrew Bible. The current year in the Jewish calendar is 5782. That's supposed to be years since Adam. Now, this book, this is the very last entry using the AM designation for the dating before they start in with the AD, the time of Christ dating. So you see they've got these strange catastrophes going on, blood falling from the sky and pits and pools flowed with blood, and a great famine in Rome, and an earthquake in Judea, which if you remember in the Bible, it says there was a great earthquake and the sky was torn asunder at the crucifixion of Christ. So that's 3971. Now let's go back to the page before. Was burnt the famous Alexandrian library. The great library of Alexander just disappeared right before they changed all of the dating at the time of Christ. Now also 3926, still a good 45 years before switching over to the time of Christ, Josephus is writing about long in temperature air, hot and barren earth, okay, famine. Well, Josephus was supposed to be around to write about the Bar Kokhba revolt, the Jewish revolt against the Romans in 79 AD. So we've got an entry here from 50 years before the time of Christ all the way to 79 years after the time of Christ. So, I mean, this guy's like 150 years old when he was writing about the Bar Kokhba. Now, let's look at the first 80 years after Christ when they restarted the calendars here. I guess they're going with after Christ AC on this. But in year 6, a terrible famine in Rome. Year 10 was a great earthquake in Cyprus. And then 7 years later was a great earthquake just across the Mediterranean there in Italy. And then 2 years after that was an earthquake that demolished 13 cities in Asia, which Asia at that time is what we would call the Middle East. So they're saying there was a great earthquake in the Middle East in the year 19, and then 10 years later, an earthquake in Judea, which is modern day Palestine, Israel. So it looks a lot to me like they're just taking the different written accounts and really just throwing darts at the board saying, well, this was this year and that was this year, because you have writings from all around the Mediterranean of cities getting destroyed. And then in the year 51, in a totally unrelated incident, 3 suns appeared at once, which sensibly united in one orb. The same year, a great famine in Greece, which was the case of Rome the next year. Another great earthquake, another great comet, another earthquake, another comet, more raining blood. And down at the bottom right, you can see that he's citing Magdeburg as a reference. Now, what you've really got is all these people that have studied these different cultures and know that this bad stuff happened in their past. And this guy basically making a collection of it back in 1749 and assigning dates to when things happen. And here we go with the unexpected stuff again. In the year 81 happened a most extraordinary conflagration of Vesuvius. Great companies of men. If you don't know what a company is, it's like a battalion. Great companies of men of unusual size, like giants, were seen walking and conversing night and day on the mountain, adjacent country, and neighboring cities. They fought sometimes in the air. The noise of their trumpets was heard. The sea roared. The sky echoed back its terrible sound, a noise as though mountains fell down together. With all a great heat and drought, the plains were dried up. Suddenly came a great earthquake, a noise under the ground like thunder. Then prodigious rocks thrown out. So it finally erupted, and the smoke darkened the sun day, so the day was as night. And the ashes covered all the surrounding area, North Africa, Egypt, Syria, which again, Middle East, and Rome, Italy. But seriously, what's going on here? Who were the giants, the armies of giants that came out before the eruption of a volcano? And then a fight broke out between them. So I don't know. You've got like the Hopi ant people that live in the earth. You got Admiral Byrd that had literally the whole U.S. Army backing him for an expedition to Antarctica and got chased out by what he called were flying saucers that could go pole to pole in a matter of seconds. And speaking of the burning shield earlier, I've heard that armies were about to fight and then something in the sky showed up that looked like a burning shield, and they all said, well, okay, no, not going to do this. In no particular order, let's jump to 1588. This year, several remarkable prodigies were seen at Ditmarcia. In 1 month appeared 5 suns. June the 26th, the air began clear, the sun was quickly darkened, and all that day appeared with the figure of a drawn sword in its mouth, the rocks of Colum, whatever that says. The rocks opened themselves and burnt asunder. Bread put into the oven was drawn out, sweating blood, and presently fell down by little and little to ashes. Okay, one more and I'm going to eat something and get my beauty rest. So in the year 365 after Christ, July the 21st, were most terrible tempests in Italy, followed by such an earthquake as threatened to change the whole globe, turning seas to land and land to seas. On the island of Crete were 10 cities swallowed up. Socrates. Now, this is where it pays to actually know what the official narrative is, because Socrates was supposed to live before the time of Christ in 399 BC. But according to this book written in 1749, Socrates gave an account of the island of Crete and cities being swallowed up in 365 AC after Christ. So this book was compiled in 1749 before they had their whole official narrative put together about what dates happened when. They go on to say that this event exceeded all others that had been recorded before it. It was ushered in at the break of day by flashes of lightning. The globe was shaken, the sea was driven back, the bottoms of the deeps lay naked, innumerable sorts of fish lay on the mud, many ships laid on dry land. You get the idea. All of the water sucked out, and then all of a sudden came back in a giant tsunami and leveled innumerable cities and buildings. That account is supposed to be 365 AC up there in Italy, where I've got it marked here on the map, clearly describing an earthquake, and then before the tsunami, all of the water washed out and then came back in and destroyed everything. Now, a full 7 years later, in 372, there was a huge earthquake, and the sea overflowed and destroyed many of the cities in Sicily and the neighboring islands and their people. Also, Nicaea and Bithynia. Now you look at this on the map, I've got 372 AC in Sicily and roughly where Nicaea is, and then 365 AC 7 years earlier in Rome. No, it was one giant earthquake and tsunami that took everything out. Then there were huge famines, there were plagues. Then it turned really cold. I'll read accounts of that later, like little ice age cold. Like seriously 30 feet of snow in places cold. But I'll tell you what this book is. It's an account of all of the written records showing the end of the old world. This was endgame. Everything was destroyed. And you see how Greece is sitting right there in the middle of all of this, completely unaffected in this timeline, because fast forward 200 years, and in 1552, there was a great earthquake in Greece, which overturned many towns, and then the sea overflowed, leaving fish everywhere. So this was a delayed reaction of 200 years. No, this is a step-by-step account of all of the catastrophes happening. And then just assigning dates so that it doesn't look like it's the same event. You know, it all happened at different times in different places. I'll do some more videos in the future putting all of it together a little bit better. One thing I can't get around here, though, are comments like this. Some things that look like spears were seen in the air flying from east to west. This kind of adds a new element of it. To me, I didn't rank this stuff very importantly until recently, but there's definitely something to this. There's just no way around it. Guys, let me know what you think about these types of writings here down in the comments. I'll check you later. Peace.